Hey, what it do, YouTube? And welcome back to Q's Challengers Corner, where we go over everything NA Challengers, previous week's news, results, Pickems, and I figured since we're over halfway through the split, why not go ahead and throw in a power rankings as well. But we do got a lot to go over this week. Orgs out, new orgs in. I'm going to try to do my best to wrap this thing up as quick as possible, so go ahead, buckle up, and let's go ahead and get down and do what it do. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the guard, as we did kind of go over both the ALGS and the Valorant rosters, as we gave our thoughts on the whole situation as far as the guard shutting down. So I'm not going to go over that too much in this video. I will go ahead and leave a little tab for you guys up in that top left-hand corner if you're interested in my full thoughts as far as that. But what was surprising last week is that with as impressive as the guard has been looking thus far in Challenger Circuit, and like we had talked about with Tanner in our last Challengers Corner episode, TSM, they hadn't been looking the greatest thus far. So
yeah, it's definitely, it doesn't look good. As a TSM fan myself, it really sucks to see them do bad.
I mean, if you would have told me that this matchup would have ended up in a sweep, I really wouldn't have been like that surprised. I just would have never guessed that it would have been TSM doing the sweeping. And now, last week we did also talk about the Challenger Circuit getting wet with the entrance of Moist Moguls, and I even talked about how going to Moist might actually be just crazy enough to work. But instead of repeating myself a lot on that, if that's something you're interested in, I'll have that video linked down in the description below. I'll also have that linked at the end of the video as well. But while I'm sure really Ludwig would have liked to have been able to pick up the dub for Moist first week in Valorant Challengers, luckily there are 4 teams with that 1-2 record in the bottom of Group A. So at this point, it's really anyone's ball game still to qualify for that mid-season invitational. So that loss last week to Turtle Troop doesn't really hurt so bad, right? Plus, also last week, G2 did prove that I was kind of wrong to be questioning them. They really are that good. They looked really impressive with the win over Oxygen Esports, as they were coming off a win to Shopify. And speaking of Shopify, they actually lost to Fades, which kind of adds to this whole confusion at the bottom of Group A, right? Now, as far as Friday's games last week, people probably won't be surprised too much. I mean, MA sweeping Mad Lions and Disguise taking down OR Esports. But I do want to at least point out real quick, I think it's worth noting, OR Esports, they looked pretty good. Unfortunately, they just have an extremely tough group. They kind of got a tough draw, right? They played M80, they played the guard, now they played Disguise. Their chances of making that invitational, they're not good, right? But, you know, who knows? They could still look really good in split number 2 and kind of build some momentum in these last 2 games here. But you know, I had mentioned possibly wanting to do a power ranking for NA Challengers heading into week number 4. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really want to go over everything here, right? I didn't want to go over each individual pick. So I figured I'm going to go ahead and pull up everything and talk about some key points here, right? Now, I think the bottom 4, I think they're pretty self-explanatory, right? And even these next 2 here, I would say are pretty well interchangeable. And we actually get to see that matchup this Friday. And as per normal, we're going to be doing some of those watch parties over here. We're actually going to be doing all 3 days at 8 Challengers. So if you're looking for a cool place to come on by, peep into those games with your boy, hit that subscribe button and turn those notifications on. That way we can catch y'all right back here. All right. Now, when we talk about the rest of our power rankings real quick, let's go ahead and start digging in with some of our 2-1 teams. And I think as far as in that 6th spot right there, I think I'm going to have to put Shopify Rebellion. And I know that they're technically, when you look at like the records of our 2-1 teams, they're kind of middle of the pack. As far as like middle, like that round differential, right? But they haven't really looked dominant against lesser competition. So I think as far as for me, they haven't looked good where they needed to. For that reason, we're going to go ahead and put them in that 6th spot. All right. In that number 5 spot, I'm going to go ahead and put Disguise. Their only one loss was to the guard, and that was really early. That was week number 1, and they just seem to keep getting better and better. Now, we do actually get to see how they look this week playing against M80. And M80's been pretty sharp. That should be a really good matchup. Now, in that 4 spot is going to be FaZe Clan. Similar to Shopify, they haven't looked great in the games where you've really expected them to, but they have still picked up the W's where they're supposed to sit in that 2-1. That's going to leave them in that 4th spot. Now, as we had kind of talked about, the guard came up with a big disappointing L this past week. That's going to move them down into that 3 spot here. It's going to be really interesting to see how they respond to the loss. And I can't help but imagine, you know, obviously with the news breaking about, you know, the guard shutting down and everything, although I do believe they've still retained their rosters, can't help but think that was a little bit of a distraction. You know what I mean? Now that is going to leave us with our final 2 teams here. Both of them are undefeated, at least thus far. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they end that way. So until these two teams end up meeting in that mid-season invitational, I think with M80 coming out of what looks to be the stronger group, they'll get the slight nod and end up being in that #1 spot. Now, I'm kind of curious as far as, let's roll into some Pickems. But before we get into the Pickems, I'm curious what you guys think about this power rankings here. Let me know down in those comments below. All right. And again, I did say I wanted to wrap up this video quick. I didn't want to do too much time, especially I know some of you guys like to tune into these things on your lunch breaks and stuff like that, right? So let's go ahead and get right into these Pickems here. Let me know where you guys agree, disagree, stuff like that. And as I mentioned before, we'll be doing those watch parties over here on the channel. We'll be watching everything over here this week, all right? But I think the first four games of the week, let's be honest, I think they're to kind of go the way that you expect them to, right? I think we're going to be seeing W's for M80, TSM, G2, and the Guard. But Friday's where things get super interesting, because I think Oxygen Esports has shown the ability to bounce back after a loss. They won week 2 after dropping their first series, and they even gave G2 a really good fight in their second map last week. I think that's going to be some stuff that they get to build on, and I think they end up taking the dub against FaZe. Now, that is going to leave us with that matchup I talked about earlier, Shopify and Moist. I do truly think that's going to be a toss-up. I was really high on Shopify, even dating back to like the qualifiers, right? And I would still really like to rock with them, but man, I'll tell you what, if Ye ends up showing up in the challengers this week and the black and blue, that would shake the entire Valorant world up. And I mean, who knows? Maybe it would happen. I'm not saying it would happen. I think it would surprise most people, just not me if you've watched that video right up there. You know what I mean? But we're just going to have to see. Games are going to be starting this Wednesday over here on the channel, 4 p.m. Eastern time. So y'all already know what we're going to be doing over here. All right, do me a favor. Leave those comments below. Let me know your thoughts on everything challenges. Let me know what you guys think of the power rankings, what y'all think of my Pickems over there. And once you're all done leaving those comments down below, y'all could really help me out and hit that like button. Those are the two things that help me out with that algorithm, get my content in front of more people as we chase down that first 200 subscribers. All right. But until we do catch y'all back over here for the next one, man, don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love hard. All right, y'all. It's your boy Q, signing out.
If you ain't show something, you just don't wanna be. You wanna be me, but you will never be as fresh as CUE.